all yours.
All right, you ready to start off, Ross?
Okay, I'm ready to call the Albemarle County Historic Preservation Committee meeting August 23rd at 4:30 p.m. on a hot summer day. This meeting is held in pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20-A16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. Let's see here. The minutes were sent around. Did everyone have a chance to read over the minutes? Are there any additions, corrections, or comments? If not, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion, minutes are passed, last month minutes are passed. And let's see here.
Ready to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, everybody in favor? Please raise your hand. Okay, everybody not in favor? Speak up or raise your hand. All right, it passes. The minutes are passed.
I'm going to jump in here for 1 second. Ed, we have sent you yet another invitation to your email. If you can sign out and sign back in using that link.
Okay, I'll do that.
Go.
Sign out again and sign back in with the same link that you sent me.
That should be a new email that was just sent to you. All right, I'll be watching for him to come back. Y'all go back to the meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm having a hard time managing my screen here. Is it Margaret's not with us today?
No, she was unable to make it.
Wow. Okay. Let's see here. So we do have a quorum. Is Ed back yet?
Not yet.
We can progress on to the discussion items. And
Okay. We have, okay, let me
you have them pulled up, or
find that 1 minute. I had them pulled up. Here they are. Okay, discussion items. First on the agenda is how the county's history in celebrating and commemorating the committee members.
Ross, there's an item on the agenda before discussion items called reviewing subcommittee
oh
assignments.
yeah, I looked over that.
Yes,
Sorry about that. Actually,
thank you, thank you.
your call is at that pulled up currently. It was a item brought up by the new committee members, and share my screen.
Was there something supposed to be attached with that? Okay,
Are you able to view my screen?
yes.
Okay.
So Historic Preservation Committee subcommittees are as follows: Heritage Education Markers. This work, whoops, I just lost it.
Sorry about that. I had to pull up another.
Was formed to pursue educational programs and financial incentives for historic preservation in the county. On that committee is Liz, Diane, Nancy, and Betsy. Real estate, Jared, myself, and Carter. Demolition and Documentation, myself, Ed, Carter, and Craig.
And I have it as Peter, Pete, and Daniel are the ones that haven't been assigned.
Okay,
Meeting, I believe it's only the person here is Peter in this currently in this meeting. Is that correct, Peter? Have you not been assigned to a subcommittee?
I thought, sorry, I thought I was.
Oh, wait, you muted yourself.
Excuse me. I thought I did assign I did get assigned to demolition, but I'm not.
Okay, I think I do recall that actually.
Actually, I think you might.
Okay, I'll add that, and then we'll have to wait to the next meeting if the other two new members aren't present at this meeting.
Pete's here.
Oh, is he? I can only see.
I see him.
Okay, there we go. I can only see certain amount of people with this the screen share.
I'm
Pete,
sorry, I was fumbling and looking. Thanks, Liz.
you have a particular one of
I was hoping to see where is the need? Where's the need for extra hands? I'd be happy to join wherever the greatest need is.
Well, I think we have plenty now for demolition and documentation. Real estate's fairly simple. I don't know if we need more than 3 people for real estate. How, Liz and Diane, how are you all on the heritage, education, and markers?
Well, the one thing I would say, again, I think is if we had more, I'm being as transparent as possible. I believe if we had more people on our committee, we would be able to communicate under FOIA. 2 members of that subcommittee would be able to communicate. We're currently prohibited from doing that because those sidebar conversations are quorum. They constitute a quorum.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like the more the merrier. And if that also helped us communicate more effectively and work possibly in pairs, that would be an added benefit. But I want to make sure we're being above board.
the way you interpret it, I understand, but to clarify, it's not prohibited, it's just the following the guidelines for notification, which does limit, I would say, the ability to communicate regarding the 2, but adding more members does up that quorum kind of requirement.
What are you saying about the two people communicating?
I was saying, or you said prohibited, I was just clarifying, it's not a prohibited, it's just a limitation because you need to have public.
Oh, yeah, right. You would have to announce it as a public meeting, right? Gotcha, right.
But everything else is in fact correct. So I would say, based off of Liz, adding Pete to the heritage education. And maybe as we kind of progress, now we're in the it seems like we're closer to the local marker, or trying to establish draft that might help as well. And that can also be captured in the website stuff that had been discussing past meeting. So I think, as Liz said, the more the merrier.
Okay, is that agreeable with you, Pete?
Yes, sounds good.
Good, thank you, Pete.
All right, and Daniel make sure that I have everybody that I can see on my screen. Daniel is in fact not present at this meeting, so we'll hold off assigning him until he's present, hopefully in the next meeting.
Okay, all right. All right, I lost my, there it is. Okay, let's see. So discussion items. How's the county history and celebrating the commemorative committee members? What is that?
Let's see. It's how the county's history is celebrating commemorated, and it was a topic brought up by Diane. I'm not sure if you wanted to start a discussion on that or just it was a general committee member discussion.
Yeah, it was a general committee member discussion. I believe I brought up 2 discussion items.
Correct, yeah.
And one of the ones I wanted to elaborate on a little bit is the Albemarle Charlottesville historical society and doing more, thinking about opening up that pathway to do more collaborations with them. But yeah.
You want to reverse that order? I do have the website pulled up if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just go ahead and pull that website up. It's actually a website that works in tandem with the webinars and the research and educational programs that are happening over there at the Historical Society. And I lost you because I wanted to pull up another document. Bear with me.
Just to confirm, the committee as a whole doing the website. Diane's.
Can everybody see that? I mean, it's awfully. Yeah, thank you. That looks a little bit better. What we're working off of right now is a great template. I wish not to reinvent the wheel when we are talking about planning a proposed countywide marker program. And the subcommittee has modeled the proposed Albemarle County Historic Marker Program after, I believe, the memorandum that was shared back in October 15th, 2020. And that was shared at large with the committee in November of 2020. As the subcommittee continues to brainstorm around the current template, the description of the marker program is included in that template. I believe it would help to articulate what vision, mission, and/or values are being set in motion to drive the purpose of the county's historic marker program. And we can discuss that more in detail, hopefully at the subcommittee planning meeting. According to my conversation with Mary Lipsey, the current Fairfax County Marker Program was developed and driven by a series of collaborations between community-based commissions. The Fairfax County History Commission, that's what they call themselves, worked in tandem with the Civil War Sesquicentennial Commission, to develop their initial historic marker program. The early historic marker program was designed around the county's historic Civil War trails. So they didn't work in a vacuum. They actually worked with that the Civil War trails program in tandem with another commission or committee. Fairfax also works in tandem with the semi-quincentennial work group. This legislation also mandated that George Mason's Gunston Hall would appoint and establish an advisory council composed of non-legislative citizen members. The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors approved a 7-person semi-quincentennial work group led by Gunston Hall at Mason, including representatives from Fairfax, Mount Vernon Estate, National Museum of the U.S. Army, George Mason University, Fairfax County History Commission, Fairfax County Human Rights Committee, along with associated county history, equity, and human rights staff members. The work group was charged with providing recommendations by July 2021 to the Board of Supervisors. That was done back in just recently, last month. Recommendations to include high-level SMART, that's an acronym, SMART goals related to planning. I don't have that information in front of me, but it can be found on the Fairfax County website. So that program promotes types of civic, cultural, historical, and educational activities, ways and means, timetables, approaches, and accountability. Historic Planning and Heritage Resources works in collaboration with the Fairfax County Department of Planning and Development to create historic story maps to reinforce the history that's being told around their state historical highway markers. I would like to propose that the Albemarle County Historic Preservation Committee work in tandem with the Charlottesville Albemarle Historical Society to further develop a proposed countywide historic marker program. Why? Collaborate with ACHS. As I have already pointed out, ACHS has an in-house library. ACHS also started a brand new historic tours program. Cultural and heritage educational programming helps to enhance the storytelling component of the countywide historic marker program. Central Virginia historic researchers are on the board. The historic researchers on the on the Historical Society's board. So let me clarify that. The Central Virginia historic researchers are often presented, they often present Historic Society's webinar programs, presentations, aspects of the historic marker program can be developed in concert with a given topic of discussion during a webinar. May is Historic Preservation Month. And I suggest that that's something we could think about. Use that month as a set aside to commemorate those persons, places, landmarks, and/or sites that identify and coincide with the countywide marker program. What you see in is the African American Families Database over there in the display. The Central Virginia History Researchers Project was developed. I believe it started in around 2018. They researched enslaved families who lived in Albemarle County between 1850 and 1880. CVHR looks at the records of the slaveholder in order to garner specific details about enslaved people. What you see on the first tab is a little bit about the Central Virginia History Researchers. And I suggest that they are a great resource because the majority of them are on the board at the Historical Society, or they're involved in their programs, again, often work in tandem with each other. One of the tabs you can open up, if you don't mind, scrolling over to the third tab, Hydraulic Plantation. It was an 800-acre plantation located north of Charlottesville at the junction of Ivy Creek and the South Fork of the Rivanna River. Most of you probably know where that was located one time. Go over to the next tab, Bleak House Plantation. Was a 692-acre plantation that bordered the South Fork of the Rivanna River. And if you would go to the tab that says blog and scroll down to, don't scroll down yet, go over to up there where it says categories in Albemarle County. Just Albemarle, it just says Albemarle. I think it's the second bullet. And scroll down to where it says the Ivy Creek story, the Ivy Creek story with story maps. And it's just showing you how accessible that information is and how we don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of that information is already there. Yes, you would open that up. I don't know if, scroll down a little bit. Well, that one, I don't know that was the one, but it's supposed to open up the entire site of the Ivy Creek. Okay, thank you, Chris. Oh, there it is. It took some time. There it is. All of that information is right there. We have resourceful people right there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, is what all I'm saying. So thank you. That's it. I also noticed in the blog, and I don't know exactly where it's located today, but I was scrolling through and I looked at some information that was pretty extensive about the APVA programs. Their programs were created Preservation, Virginia. And I believe they were looking at about 160 locations that have been listed on Virginia's most endangered historic places. And once a site goes on there, they never come off, even if a positive outcome is accomplished. And they say their mission is to continue to help, advise, monitor, and raise awareness for these irreplaceable sites throughout Virginia. And I go back to what Liz was talking about months back, and I think about what she was talking about, the Brynwana, when she was talking about the Brynwana Motel. I think we need to probably take another look at that site, because that's one of the ones listed on that irreplaceable or most endangered historic places. Another one in our area or region is the, what did I write? I believe it's called, most of you may have heard of this one, Mountain View Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two I think would definitely be two sites that we really want to include in the our proposed marker program, because they're both listed on the most endangered historic places site.
Oh, that's interesting. I had never been able to figure out where that was.
Yeah.
Hillsborough, Yancey. Do you remember if we identified that marijuana was actually in Charlottesville City, or is it in the county?
I believe I would say very much so in the county, because it would have been in the county then, and it still would be, historically, it would still be considered the county. They were both were in Victor Green's Negro Travelers Green Book.
Right.
So I really would like those two to be, probably take first priority. We can go into a little bit more about that in the subcommittee meeting.
Noted.
Yeah. So that's it. I just don't think anything we're doing should happen in a vacuum, because every, from what I've been able to fathom in reading over and reviewing most of the websites, most of the market programs work in concert with other commissions and organizations. Their work doesn't happen in a vacuum, nor should ours. Thank you for your time. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Diane.
You're welcome.
I totally agree. I think we could help create a framework that all these great organizations could be in a
I'm
dialogue
already working with the majority of them anyway on the work that I'm doing. It just makes sense to me.
Connecting
Yeah,
the
it all points connect. Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Diane. Let's see here.
Ross, Diane mentioned, and Chris, I think there was another subset of her kind of topic points, and that was how the county's history is celebrated and commemorated. And I just want to go back to a point that Diane made, and it might have been under that, but having I absolutely agree that we should work to articulate a vision, mission, and values that guide this program. I mean, I took a stab at it, and Nancy kind of reworked that, but especially going out to partners and sort of saying, getting input from if we can find a way to collaborate with the Historical Society and others, like that is a shared mission and vision.
I agree. I don't think that, we would be far removed from saying that we would be working with the same idea of having the same outcomes, more inclusive and equitable histories that are told, that are contextualized.
I think this is a fine idea to get input from people, but I really I know that you all have a very strong focus on the county story, and that's where I want to make sure that this committee is staying. But gathering information from others is welcome.
That site that we just displayed is all county, all about the county, that whole archive. It's not duplicating. That's why I say we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a gift.
Great.
Any other comments? Okay,
Before you can continue on, we'll add, as I mentioned earlier, Margaret's unable to make this meeting, and the next topic was the HPC website suggestion, so we don't have anything prepared for that one. So we can push that to the next meeting. We'll have something prepared.
Okay.
In anticipation of prioritizing website suggestions, the updating and making the HPC website more accommodating for the residents of the county or anybody that wanted to visit the site.
Okay, all right, we'll hold off for the next meeting on that. Move to work group and updates, heritage education and tourism. Any other updates?
I missed the, and I'm glad Anne's on the call. Did the board vote on the location for the Riverview marker recently? Was that coming up, or did that happen?
I think it was on our consent agenda last time with maps showing that it was on the house side of the driveway, but right at the sidewalk where the crossing is at the parking lot, which sort of brings all the various points of view together to have it off the road, but where people cannot miss it. Anyway.
So that approves the location and the text, and so we're ready.
Yes.
That means we're ready to roll on that. And Nancy's not here. That's kind of been her. She's been working very closely with the Ivy Creek Foundation, but that's a great update. Thank you for that vote.
Thank you, Anne.
Welcome.
Any other local historic markers topics? Okay, demolition.
I'm still in contact and working with the I'm blanking, St. John Family Life and Fitness Center and the adjacent church to find, and the intent is to install the where is my mind? Virginia Lee Murray in that vicinity, but they're right on the cusp of master planning, and so we want to make sure that the location is the most well thought out one, given that they have some renovations and plans coming up. But knowing that there was one question, which is there a precedent that the sign has to be installed on the road right of way? And it sounds like, based on what we just decided for the Riverview farm marker, that's not a requirement. So that will help us be a little more flexible in placing that marker. It will still be publicly accessible, but maybe just safer to pull off and read.
Mm-hmm.
Adding to that point, regarding St. John's Fitness Center, they're I guess semi-recently in track and time, but they had submitted documents and permits for their building permits, so they're moving along ahead with the renovations.
Great, okay. Any other comments or additions?
I guess I'll throw in one thing, and that is, as technology improves, and maybe this is already underway in other places, where there are some kind of phone mapping for people who are looking for the marker to be able to get decent directions to it via some QR code or something that will help. Some of them are in really obscure places, and I think the Commonwealth ought to really make an effort to do this. And the one for the Waylands Crossing is right by the train trestle in Crozet, and if you knew it were there, then you stop at the square and park and walk around the corner. But we need to whack back some bushes and really do a better job of exposing it so that people can actually see it. And you only see it in one direction because of its location. So
And we know of great things out there like story mapping, like the ArcGIS
Yes.
maps that Eric with Central Virginia History Researchers has created. I think honestly, it's a bandwidth thing. These products can't be produced by the subcommittee. They have to
Right.
have.
They're right there on that stall, all on that resourceful site we just looked at. And
Yeah.
the people that make it happen are there too. Eric is, I think he's a member of I'm not sure if he's a member, but he does
He works with them.
work with them, yeah,
But we can only do
with the
as a
researchers.
subcommittee, and I would just, encourage the board to consider further supporting these efforts and, at staffing level.
Right.
Respectfully.
Okay, very good. Next topic of discussion is demolition and documentation. The only item on that demo report was an interior wall at the Ednam Professional Center, excuse me, and it was just an interior wall, so there's nothing there of any interest. I know of nothing else to report on demolition and documentation. Anything else we haven't covered before the questions? Anybody aware of any new owners of historic properties?
I guess the good news at Longwood out in Earlysville is that it has been, rather than being back on the market right away, as I feared, there now is a riding establishment, boarding, horse boarding and stuff there. They had a big float in the Free Union Parade. So it looks like they're there to stay for a while.
Oh, good.
And hopefully, I haven't met the owners in person yet, but I met a whole bunch of other enthusiastic people who hang out there. And so hopefully that will put it in good stead for a while anyway and keep it safe. And maybe it'll come around again for the ACE committee. That's going to be my push when I finally do connect with the owners, because it was ready to go several years ago and then the owners backed out. So that part of the evaluation has basically already been done. And we'll see.
Good, good. Headquarters came on the market earlier last
Okay.
week, and which is a significant property right at the foothill of the Blue Ridge Mountains near the Shenandoah National Park, all the way up near on the Doles River. But other than that, I don't know of any recently demolished structures. Nothing else that I can think of. Anybody have anything to share otherwise? Chris, was there anything else we need to cover in this meeting?
No, I just add the subcommittee meeting is meeting after this meeting, which will seem a bit earlier than it's on the agenda, but that's the only thing I have to add at this time.
Okay, and then we'll work. So what are we supposed to be doing? Looking at the website and having suggestions for next meeting?
I think we have all the suggestions gathered, called Margaret's thought process. It was, or most of the suggestions, it was going to be a list that kind of gave all the suggestions we've received so far. So the committee as a whole can establish any the order or prioritization of those suggestions.
Okay.
Chris, was that list already sent out?
No, it hasn't been,
Oh, okay.
hasn't been created yet, but the suggestions have been received. It just
Right.
hasn't,
Okay.
a document has been created yet.
It would just be much more helpful to us if we can have the list ahead of time and think about it and be ready. Otherwise, we're all going to be staring at each other at the meeting next time.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think fast enough to do these things immediately.
Yeah. It's helpful if, yeah, before the meeting with the agenda, if we could have all the, the associated documents to look at prior to the meeting, that would, it's always helpful and appreciated.
I think our public likes that because then they know if they need to tune in or not. And then
True.
we may catch their interest if they see something with the packet that's there, and then that will help to do our education job for us, the more people we have listening in.
Let's see, our next Historic Preservation Committee meeting is virtual again, and then will be held on September 27th at 4:30. Are there any other comments, requests?
Thank you to the subcommittee who is going to keep on going. That's just wonderful. We really appreciate you and all
Yes.
you're doing.
Indeed.
Okay, we don't have a designated, I mean, we have to stop at 6, right?
Yes,
Okay.
stop. Yeah,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
right, Carolyn.
And
We
please,
have to stop at 6 because I have another meeting
Right.
at
then.
6:15.
Okay.
and Pete, please stay on if you can. And Betsy and Nancy obviously aren't here, but I'd love to be able to chat more as a small subcommittee.
And
Betsy
Ross,
is here.
If we stop before 6, is
Oh,
that,
she just
oh,
popped in.
is that
She's
allowed?
here, but she just needs to unmute herself. I cannot promote her to panelist either. Not sure
Thanks. I didn't see her.
people didn't do or what's going on.
Well, I'll mark her as present.
and Ross, just join the full meeting to make it official.
Yep. All right. Well, this meeting is now adjourned, and thank you, everybody. And y'all have a good committee meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Liz, to add, I did receive an email from Nancy that couldn't make it on the call, but she's trying to make it for the subcommittee meeting, which she's anticipating to be at 5:30. So she might, I'm not sure how much you all have discussed, so she might potentially miss the subcommittee meeting if she's thinking it's at 5:30.
Can we
Here.
text her and get her back in? Let's see. Nancy, gosh.
I think he said she was running late and would try to be here by 5.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry, I was talking. Didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, she was emailing saying she's running late, but gonna try to join. So I don't have a particular agenda, and Diane, I really want to say I appreciate your comments in our regular meeting about emphasizing the importance of not planning in a vacuum. And now that if we can use this draft, the brainstorming document as a kind of starting point, and then my approach would be to then sort of look through things and go, okay, how do we reach out to our partners? A great example would be how would a applicant who maybe has an idea for a marker but doesn't have the resources or the time or even maybe the desire to write the text itself, could they work with someone at the Albemarle County the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society to help develop text to then feed into a program that's implemented by the county? I mean, I think there is some kind of like figuring out how it is structured that can come at another time.
You're right. But, it's something certainly something to think about.
Pete, were you able to see, it was attached to the agenda that Chris sent out this week, but that document that we're referring to is linked to the, I think it's to the agenda items, the agenda that was sent out this week. It exists as a static document. I made it in Google Maps, but it's been updated and Chris has made it into a, looks like it's a PDF, but
Yes, I can see it.
great. So
I'm sorry, can I ask one quick kind of orientation question? Diane, I really appreciated your presentation today. I think that makes sense to look at partners. You and Liz talked about mission, vision, and I think that's great for us as well. I'm new to some of these other organizations, and I was trying to think of the Venn diagram of mission. And I don't know if the others have those. Maybe that's just a self-education component. We mentioned too the Albemarle and Charlottesville Historic Preservation Committee. The website was the Central Virginia Historic Society.
Central Virginia Historic Researchers.
History researchers.
History researchers, thank you. Historical history.
Gotcha.
Fairfax calls theirs Fairfax County History Commission.
As I try to construct this mental map, are those our two partners? Are there potentially others, or that's the?
Absolutely, that's what that opens the pathway to, because they are working with others, and a lot of those people that are on the committees and on the board, they are involved with the same type of work, with their working with other partners in another capacity. And I say that to say that's what I pretty much do. This is one piece of the puzzle of many projects that I'm working on that's related to the same concept and topic.
one way to think about like kind of how is this backward engineered is to look at the example of the Riverview Farm marker.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to back up even more, to give you a little context on, there's sort of two things going on. We have the Historic Preservation Subcommittee, and ultimately the committee is working on 5 local markers as a product of the Community Remembrance Project, which is a Board of Supervisors initiated program. And so local markers are a subset of that, just like similar, to how Diane was describing what sounds like a comparable Office of Equity and Inclusion in Fairfax, and a subproduct of that has been a local program. So in year one, but year one has kind of become 3 years, but let's not worry about that. We were asked by the Board of Supervisors, by Ann and others, to increase the number of local markers in the county specifically dedicated to women and to people of color, to African Americans, and at the same time, and maybe this came like a little bit later, we started talking about, could this be a sustaining program that could live within Albemarle County, and what would that look like? So we've been doing a little bit of both. But I don't think it's Diane or my intention that this would be the Historic Preservation Committee picking what they think are good local markers and, sprinkling them here and there. That's kind of what we've done with these first 5, because we haven't developed a program and a structure to, have the bottom up, like have the markers come to us, but that's what we're hoping to build. So the markers we have: Riverview Farm, the Albemarle Training School, the Virginia Lee Murray, and the Union Run Baptist Church. Those are all sort of in the mix. We hope to have those installed to kind of kick off this local marker program. But we don't. But now we're sort of like, okay, well, how do we get this thing really self-sustaining? Which could mean, I think this could mean, what does the board, what does the county even, what would this cost, right? I mean, I'm coming at it from my top my linear thinking is like process, and Diane is such a great counterbalance to that because she's coming at it from what is our mission and our impact and how are we.
And it's very personal because a
Right.
lot of what I suggested or nominated is based on the fact that I have ancestral ties to those sites. So that's where I'm coming from. And I
So we
think
have
that,
like left brain and right brain working
right.
in this subcommittee, chewing
Right.
these
And
things.
as I delve further into it, I'm finding out, oh my God, they were all over this county, and they were even part of the Penbrook project. I was just telling you a little bit about that in an email, and
Yeah.
this project and that part. They were in the northern corridor. They were all along. I'm finding out that I am American Indigenous because a lot of the Monicans probably had some interrelations with some of the relatives, the Browns or whomever. So I don't know that piece of it. I'm just finding out and learning. It's unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And it started out with that little PowerPoint that I did when I first came on the committee. And I started looking outward and looking at other people's migratory patterns and how did this hill, Bunker Hill, connect with North Hill? And how did North Hill connect with Roselle? And I said, why am I doing this without even thinking about my own family? So that's what started me a little bit, along with the Memorial to Enslaved Laborers, looking a little bit more at that project and how it pertains to my own. Virginia Lee Murray, for instance, she mentored my aunt, and she and her sister mentored my aunt. My grandmother passed away in her late 20s. And so she really didn't have that much of a mother figure. So those two, the Murray sisters, actually took my aunt in. So those things are very personal. And so that's what kind of got me rolling and started thinking about.
And so what I was going to say about like how the community partners play into this, Riverview Farm, which was a marker that I think as a subcommittee, we decided this topic should warrant a marker. How do we go about producing that content? And I think Nancy reached out to the board of the Ivy Creek Foundation, who then engaged with Edwina St. Rose, who is a part of the Central Virginia History Researchers.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it like, and
the Daughters of Zion Cemetery. She's
sure, very tied into like lots of
all
things.
that. So boom, boom, boom. Yeah, they all connect.
In some sort of future scenario, could it be possible that someone, let's say it was someone at Ivy Creek Foundation or someone visiting the site, just thought, hey, wow, this is right. This is really important. I think there should be a marker. How would I go about doing that? And maybe it's that they reach out to the, they look on our website and they learn about the program, and then they would possibly end up talking directly to someone like Edwina St. Rose. Like, so do you see what I mean in terms of this is how, could we connect all these people in the community that are doing this great work and then elevate, when we can, the stories through the Central Virginia History Researchers, the stories that are being discovered through the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, and be sort of like a repository for, I can see a scenario where we would have multiple applications for local markers and then be faced with how do we even pick if we can only install 2 or 4 a year? How would we rank them? What criteria? If we're trying to elevate the stories of marginalized communities, do those score higher? Like, I think we could figure all this out, and it would start with developing a overarching mission and goal, and then working to meet that.
I mean, you have all types of scenarios. I had Jimmy Hollins contact me, and he's very involved with the Burley story, the Burley alum. But he said, I don't want funding from the county, Diane. I don't want funding from the county. I just want somebody to tell me how I can get to the DHR to do this and do that. So it's, it may not be about funding. Someone may have, some group may already have their own funding, and they don't want Albemarle County to give them any monies or anything like that. But just being that resource and having that pathway to other resources just makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think even if they wanted state highway marker, it would have to be, it would have to come through our,
Right,
be routed through us, even
Right.
if it's something he
yeah,
applied.
yeah, the county first and then, yeah, but
Yeah. So there's a lot of potential, and obviously
yeah,
it is, it's a really worthy cause that I'm really excited to be working on. And, you know, I, to the degree we can, want to work on this as a subcommittee, but, you know, as I was saying, we have been limited in our communications. So, as a way of just trying to get something to review and then start to play with, that's why I crafted the brainstorming document, which is also kind of a combination of input that we've gotten from Margaret about what is the actual process, notes from what other programs, what other precedent is out there. Chris.
oh, yeah, I like
some
it because
suggestions
you didn't
too.
reinvent the wheel. It was just a building on what we were contributing and what that template, the memorandum from Fairfax, it looks very much, it mirrors that. I'm glad you didn't try to reinvent the wheel with that. It just follows very nicely, follows through with those guidelines that are already in place.
Yeah, I'm just looking through
Yeah,
the document now to see if we can, if there's anything we can kind of work through today.
Thank you both for the background. That's very helpful.
oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking, and it helps me to remember what, just a lot has happened since 2 years ago.
I think one of the biggest kind of where we could get a little more into the detail is, and there's a comment by, I believe, Nancy on, you know, how on helping someone. What is the role of the committee in this? Like, if we are creative, if we work on this structure and we have a program and we sort of launch it out, where does the committee members, you know, touch the applicant and the application along the process? You know, I can see a scenario in which we just have an application and offer some resources like the Historical Society, like the Central Virginia History Researchers, and we're pretty hands-off, and we sort of take applications as they come in and say, these are our parameters. That's a little bit how the Fairfax one is structured, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or, you know, does an applicant express interest, and then a committee member might reach out to them individually, sort of how we've done these markers that we've been working on a little more individually as a subcommittee. I just sort of am like throwing ideas out there, because I can also see how if a subcommittee member is working with an applicant and then it's coming to be scored, how objective can they really be? And recognizing that, you know, there is something to, like, well, I won't get into the funding thing. I won't drill into I won't worry about the budget right now. We'll still work on.
I think we need to think about, I was thinking about, I like the idea that we are including tables on the brainstorming document, but they are not that legible. We have to think about ADA considerations and someone looking at that. I don't
Okay,
like
well,
to
this
stress-
brainstorming document is not meant for the public.
Yeah, but
This
I
is
know
just
that, but
like
I'm
internal.
thinking about how small the table is. And if that table is replicated someplace else, I'm not saying that it's on the brainstorm, I'm saying it's now on another document of the final production of whatever it is we're producing. It still we need to have ADA considerations.
Yeah.
And I think that's hyperlink would probably be better in a way suited to have a hyperlink with the table. And then.
Well, I don't actually, I think, Diane, we pick a standard and a size and a text and it not be a choice, right? Like, and I think Nancy's comments, the brainstorming document are, let's use the biggest one we can. We know the Albemarle Training School one's a little bit small.
It is too
Physically
small.
installed, Pete. If you haven't seen it, it's off of what is that, hydraulic? Near Jack Jewett, on the way to the Ivy Creek natural area. So I think that sort of information isn't even a part of an applicant's journey, right? Like, this is what you'll be getting because this is the local marker program. And we can try to work to figure out what that standard looks like, and does it have a QR code that someone could take a hyperlink app like that? That would be great in my opinion.
It's just some type of haptic technology, some haptics, whether it's QR code or something interactive, just haptic technology of some type.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's some, it says Siwa. Is that the North Carolina one that Chris, there's a comment that some community, SEWAH, has a QR code option. Maybe that was Nancy. Oh, that's the sign producer. They do have a QR code option. That's a small plate added to the lower corner. So even to our existing signs, it sounds like maybe we could retrofit something that could link them all together. Prince William County maps the sign locations and shows the marker with its text. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, I'm so sorry, everybody. Oh, I've been listening, but I couldn't get on other than just a listener to the conversation. So I'm back at my house now.
You were, what do you call it? A participant. Yeah.
I'm very sorry. So
Yeah.
I've been hearing everything, so the conversation. So I don't want to just jump in. It seems I'm thinking at least from my perspective, there are two things. One is it looks like we have the go ahead or close to the go ahead to order the sign for Riverview Farm.
It was voted on.
And so it is Siwa Studios in Ohio.
Mhm.
That is the company that's, I guess, been commissioned to carry out the signs in the county. And I think they do the state of Virginia signs as well, the DHR markers. So I'm happy to work with whomever in the county offices to work out what that order is. With Siri not there, I'm not sure how that should proceed. Then the other thing is this great document that Liz, you started to put together. And I think we should all just be working off of this. And my only question is, what's exactly the purposes of this? Is this the policy and procedural thing that we would be putting on the website? So someone wants to think of a marker and they come to this and here are the directions.
This is doing a little bit of both. It's both it's sort of like this is back of house and front of house, and
Right.
not be necessarily something that would all be available for the public, right? So like this section on VDHR process that I believe Margaret drafted, that might be information that the public doesn't need to know that, and then I just wanted to look at this so that we could check where we think Nancy might be in this process, which is to, we have to, well, no, this is the VDHR process, but I thought there was another one that was like, here's how you order it process. Here it is, county approval and installation. So we have like, this is just a dump of stuff. But after editing has been completed, the text in the marker will be submitted to the Board of Supervisors for comment and approval. Check. And then it's not really clear how we order the sign, who that needs to be routed through. So
I think Chris can carry the ball on that.
Yeah, I was about to jump in. Yeah, I can check with Margaret and we can both as a whole figure out who that needs to be routed to.
and if
I was told by Sherry, excuse me for jumping in here, I just got home and unmuted myself. So I've been listening to the entire meeting pretty much and listening to what everybody has said in the subcommittee meeting. When I talked with Siri about who pays for the markers, she said to route the bill through her office. We were talking about Union Run then. So did everybody hear me?
Yeah, I didn't hear the person that you said.
DHR.
When I asked Siri who would be paying for the markers that we submitted the state application for Union Run for, there was a blank that required that you fill in who was responsible for payment. She said, refer the bill to my office once you've got everything about the text approved.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm surprised to
Siri,
hear that
Siri,
because,
Siri.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Siri.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
Oh,
kind of
that- so
hard to hear
that's-
you, Betsy.
yeah, that's for the local marker. Okay.
Well, it's a state marker,
well,
but
Okay,
no,
but I
that was
mean-
the state marker too. Siri understood that Union Run was going to be a state marker. She said, regardless, payment comes out of my office.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe that's still correct. We just need to figure out who, with Siri now gone, would be the particular person, even if it is the Office of Equity and Inclusion.
Mhm.
Or somebody in the executive's office can take care of the procurement on this. And what I was saying is that thinking that we were talking about future markers, and I misunderstood what Betsy was saying, that DHR was going to be paying for it, because that certainly has not been our
No.
experience so far.
The
So I
county through
misunderstood. That's
Siri.
fine. Very good. So Chris will get us the plan on who's going to do the procurement on this, so we can get it going.
and Chris, if you don't mind, document those steps so we can capture them.
So we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we try to
Yes,
figure out.
yes.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Do you want,
People might change, but
use-
hopefully the office stay the same.
would it be helpful, since we have such a great working group here, to talk about these sort of this high level mission statement, values, verbiage?
I would say go on over to the Historical Society and look at theirs. It just looks so much in keeping with what we're attempting to do, or what we're doing.
Can you tell me more about the content? I'm not concerned.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can maybe do that
Yeah.
probably.
Diane,
next
are you
time.
referring to the Historical Society or the history researchers?
Historical Society, I know.
Oh, okay,
I've been
okay.
going back and forth between the two.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Because the history researchers, I was so thrilled to see your stuff about the archive, because over the last 15 or more years, they were involved with the bypass. They've been involved with research out all over the
Mhm.
Mickey Land and everything out in the northwest part of the county, with Alice Cannon and Weena working together. I mean, it's
Mhm.
what they have accomplished is so
Since
incredibly.
2005, I
important.
know. Yeah.
And so getting that, I mean, I've been to numerous sort of presentations, and I keep wishing they were all being recorded, because you really have to be able to go back and do it all again, because you never can get it all in.
Oh, they
the
are
first time
now.
you hear it. Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
good, because that'll be terrific.
Yeah.
But those resources for people in general who come to us thinking they want information, to be able to have that cross-link available to here are resources that other people have done that you may find interesting, will be
Mhm.
very, very helpful.
But usually you have to register, and then you get the recording after.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think anybody should
Yeah.
ever think they can get something without registering, because that's the
Right,
only way
right.
we keep control of the content. So
Right.
if they don't like that, that's too bad.
Mhm.
What do you all think about Nancy's suggestion that this be called something different, that it, she's suggesting local remembrance marker program.
That's a mouthful.
Well, we have to know who are we, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? What is our reason for existing? So that's a good thought. It does pull that thought about remembrance to get it. Does
Like any word
incorporate
other than historical.
that.
And, you know, just something to think about.
And I know I don't want to be, provoke anyone, but I'm going to say something that I thought was very valuable that you said, Liz, in a meeting back in February.
Oh,
And it was February 25th, to be exact. And it really makes me think. You said, I'm going to quote you. I think I copied it. If we want to change, Liz Russell wrote on February 25th, 2021, if we want to change the spaces that visually uphold white supremacy, a first important question needs to be, what are the mechanisms in place in our dominant culture that obscure power relations that lead to, for instance, the town courthouse being decorated with symbols of slavery without the white majority culture taking offense? What is the work that white community members need to do to notice their meaning and believe community members who are calling for the removal of transformation of these symbols? How can we learn to tell more complete histories and take the overt symbols as starting points for exploration, for unearthing and removing the blinders of white supremacy and other forces of oppression? Without a basic understanding of the role that white supremacy has played in shaping so many community spaces, a community will not understand why such spaces generate conflict, nor will community members be able to address those spaces honestly and productively. I thought that was right on point. And I think I don't personally feel that I shy away from, just pondering those thoughts, because that's basically what we're doing. I'm not going to worry about if somebody's going to burn down Union Run or this, that. If people are going to be hateful, they're going to be hateful. So if I'm going to work on trying to make a positive difference by contextualizing history, why am I going to worry about or be in fear or be intimidated by the intimidators? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that people like Betsy care about and are so enthusiastic and passionate about that history. I really enjoy working with her on that specific site, Union Run. But I can't, as a person of color, as a Black woman, I can't sit there and be in fear of somebody and worry about whether people are going to do what they're going to do. They have throughout time and history. We have to be able to face and ask questions like that, tough questions like that, and ponder those thoughts. And this is why we're doing what we're doing. We can't fancy around it or mince words. This is exactly why we're doing what we're doing.
and maybe we should include some of that really purposeful language in our.
And that's exactly where I was going with the vision, a mission.
I'm gonna need you to send me what I said, because
I will send that to you, because I just thought it was just like
gold.
On point.
It sounds like something I would have gotten from some other source.
You probably did, but that's okay, because that's what we're doing. We're not inventing the wheel, but we're defining what it is we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And with the hope of also looking forward to do better while we learn, because if we spend all our time looking backwards, we're never taking one step forward. And that's my problem with the people who talk about it all the time and aren't willing to do anything. So I would rather
exactly
hear common understanding, tell a more complete history. These are all positive things to say. And then we don't spend a whole lot of time going round and round and round in circles.
Exactly.
So but thank you all. I'm sorry I have to jump, but I so appreciate listening in today. You all take care. See you soon.
Thanks, Ann.
Well, how about Diane, can you send out that text? I'm wondering, it's hard to write a paragraph mission statement by committee. Can we assign, one or two people to kind of go back and forth and take?
I think that's something that we all should be involved in. I don't know that the burden or the onus should be on any one person. I just think that again, we need to look at, we're talking about opening the pathway to collaborate and work in tandem with other organizations. And so that's something we may want to run by them as well, or work in tandem with them, work in cooperation with them about, I just can't for the life of me say that it just looks nice and cute because you're doing something. We're catching the wave of this thing called contextualizing history, because it's just something that's a fashionable thing to do. I would like to look at it as more in depth than that. It's just not that shallow or superficial for me. And it just looks good for the county to be doing this. The county's come a long way, leaps and bounds, and I'm appreciative of that. But sometimes you have to really be able to face the tough. Our history has been tough. It has not been glamorous. Community engagement work is not glamorous.
What if instead of editing, we looked at it as an additive process in which we continue to sort of build thoughts into that mission, and then perhaps the next time we get together, we can maybe start to edit that. It might be good in between to reach out to, I don't see any reason why we couldn't have those conversations with contacts at Albemarle County. I've talked with Tom about the ARCA program. They're I think happy to be involved in any capacity and sort of bounce some ideas start to bounce some ideas off each other.
I mean, I've had personal things directed at me and done, and it's just very real that you can feel a little bit intimidated about trying to make change of any kind. But then what else is new under the sun? I mean, these things have been challenging from, the very beginning of our.
I think what I can assume from these partners in the community is that we probably all want the same thing. I think that at least the folks we've discussed today, including the county and the Historical Society and the Center of Virginia History Researchers, we're all working towards the same goal. And we have the platform to to produce something that will have community value. But we have to, at some point, put some stuff down on how we're going to do that and what that would look like and kind of where the rubber meets the road. So how do we get there? If we're constrained in working as a committee, we can work individually, we can work in pairs, we can't work together off of these monthly meetings.
Is this permanent? I from what I understand, it may not be.
No, it's a permanent requirement that because we are a government appointed group, we must work in a way that can be accessed by the public. So prior to COVID, I think what we would have done is met at the county office building on an advertised date and time. Like if we said, we need to have an impromptu subcommittee meeting, we're going to schedule it on, I don't know, Saturday morning. We would still work with the county to advertise, reserve space, make available that meeting to the public if they so wished to attend. And that's always been the case. That will always be the case. And now we have this additional tool of Zoom, which in some way is very easy to have a committee meeting, but we have to go through that process. And as we know, that's been difficult. Whether we could increase our subcommittee meetings isn't for me to say. I mean, it was difficult in trying to achieve that. And
well, let me say, I think that it would be helpful to coordinate and know what one or the other is doing, because I've had people ask me, are you still on the committee? Because you're on one end doing one thing, and then, they've seen me months before, and then it just looks like we are not working together. to be quite
How can
honest.
we better work together? So,
I don't know that answer to that question given. That's why I ask, is it because of this platform?
can we work on,
Or
this is a question for Chris, can we work on a document like this, the Google Doc in real time? Not even in real time, can that be a living document that we can edit?
It's funny because I was literally thinking, that was going to be my suggestion of working in Google because it captures all the edits, but I'll need to double check with the county attorney if that's considered real time of kind of connecting that thought to kind of email communication, if editing and communicating in a Google Doc, which simulates the same thing as real time, if that's considered ultimately the same thing. So I'll need to double check that.
We know it's been difficult. It's been difficult for me to keep a lot of emails straight and do kind of version control. But we can email each other. It just has to be sort of slowed down. If we have thoughts about, hey, I saw this local marker program in Kalamazoo and it looked really great and there was this component of it, I don't think we are prevented from sharing that information. I think we have to find a way that isn't no communication, but is within the confines of our FOIA, right? And the Google Doc is one way. However, there's a I don't know, it's a technology tool, and if people don't use the tool, it just turns into a static document that gets emailed back and forth, and that's not as helpful.
Can I ask you a question? FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, which up until this point I thought just meant that certain information is discoverable if requested. Another naivety on my part, I had the perception that the decision-making process is open to the public, but working sessions I didn't know. So what I'm hearing now is working sessions, so not decision sessions, but working sessions are also subject to the advance. Okay.
That's our understanding.
Thank you.
Why we were saying if we are in a smaller, so because we're now a group of 5, I think at a quorum is 3, and therefore 2 people could work, communicate, have committee conversations, and that not be a violation of the quorum of the FOIA restriction. It's a workaround because it's still not fully collaborative.
Zoom meetings are great for certain types of information sharing. Active collaboration or working sessions are a little bit harder, even with the whiteboard capabilities. So I think that might be viable. I did like the some type of collaboration sharing document where we could do it sequentially and ensure that people aren't in there at the same time, or and maybe that's a nuance to share with the city attorney or the county attorney, that we're not trying to cheat by talking to each other, but this is just, it allows us to progress the work product in between meetings.
Yeah, Chris, you can find out more information about that. One idea would be to try to get representatives from these organizations to our, how do we best use our time that we can meet that is structured once a month, and just really push through some stuff. And I think this discussion has been really great today. And I'm happy to take another stab at cleaning up the comments and sort of what I heard, and make another revision to that brainstorming document and share that with everybody. And you can do what you want. But would it be of value to come to the next subcommittee meeting and 1 month from now with some guests from the Historical Society, from Central Virginia History Researchers, you know, certainly maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think of like Eric and his mapping, you know, genius, the skills that he has, but maybe we should not try to throw all these things in at once before we have the program up and structured, but just have a conversation with.
I don't know that we're ready for, I mean, I thought about that early on. I don't know that that would be quite the focus right now. I think that's forthcoming. The GIS mapping piece.
Right.
But it's really not the, I would say would not really be the priority at this juncture.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
But another body to include be essentially, well, Siri or Siri's replacement, because she would be a part of the process and is representing this office that called for the program in the first place, the local markers.
It's a good question, right? So I think in the future of this, I think what I'm trying to do is answer questions that aren't mine to answer, right? Like we are a subcommittee and work actually pretty independently of our staff, which Chris, we appreciate, you know, what you and Margaret do, but we're kind of out here in left field a little bit. Like, why should we have to think about some of these things without some direction from somebody? It seems like this project, which started at BOS level, like high level, we want to do this, that's great, has like migrated down so far in a subcommittee that we're not getting the answers on
that has been my problem with it. It's top down. It's a community-based project that has been mandated and directed from top down. Great ideas, but then is the top really connecting with what it really takes?
Well, we have to do a little bit of both. We have to play the game a little bit, right?
I understand that, yeah, but it's just, you can't expect to not just cut the community out of the process. Yes. And that's what we've been kind of doing, and it's just.
So I think, oh, Chris is raising his hand. Let's let him.
Sorry, just remind you, we have a couple more minutes before.
Okay, and Betsy just popped off. I think we're doing the best with what we have, and we have not been, you know, able to meet a lot, and we haven't, you know, been able to communicate. We really want this thing, but it's been tough. So, but we know that there is support, and it's kind of I feel like it's our project to see to success. And I carry a lot of responsibility with that. So should we include Siri's office in the discussion? Absolutely. But like, what do we want from them? What do we need?
Administrative help. I mean, okay. Yeah, it's just guidance on what the budget, where are we with the budget. I mean, this is just not going to happen without knowing that, that type of thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Can we set some goals for this next month? What we try and do? Whether it's contacts to make or things to research or.
You guys have 1 minute before I have to cut you off because I have to go to another meeting. I'm sorry. You know, I think I've said this before. You guys can come up with a time during the day, except for Mondays during the day. I would be more than happy to host a Zoom meeting for you guys. Even if you want to do it for 2 hours during the day, I'm good with that. But my problem at nighttime, I have so many meetings that it's hard for me to find a time for you guys at night to have this type of meeting.
That's really good to think about. I think let's wrap it up here. Maybe we can follow up in a non-real-time email about our goals for next time. And I think that's a great consideration to find a daytime to do a work session, and appreciate the offer from Carolyn to help facilitate that, because that has been technological.
Guys, okay, I'm in school too, so you remember my time during the day, and other, it may not be that flexible right now. So,
Okay, well, we gotta find a way to get somewhere.
I know it's tough for everybody.
yeah,
But there's only so many hours in a day and in a week that I can work. And, some nights I have 2 back-to-back meetings.
yes.
It's tough. So
Yes,
I'm
it
willing
is.
to do whatever I
Diane,
can. to
can
help
you
you guys.
suggest sometimes, can you suggest 3 or 4 times in an email, and we can then find the best time? I'm quite free, so you're the one who's more tight with the schedule.
Got to go, guys. So you have to go. I'm so sorry.
Okay, we'll follow up in an email. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, thanks.